Okay, so this video, took a little bit of work, a little bit of elbow grease to get this one done, but we're here for it. 20 severely, just extremely underrated guitarists. You guys can let me know what you think about the list. Now, these are in no particular order, so number 20 is not better than number 1. These are just 20 players who I think are incredible at, many different facets of their playing, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. So I'd really like to hear some of the players that you think are underrated. Please let me know down in the comment section. If you guys would, check out my brand new course that is on sale this week for launch week, the Chord Expander. Kind of the cornerstone of all riffs and music is really based around chords. So if you want to expand your chordal knowledge, check that out if you would. It supports the channel. It's the main way to do it. And let's get into this list of 20 underrated guitarists. Now, some might debate about this one, but Andy Summers. Now, obviously, is he underrated? He sold millions of albums, all that kind of stuff, but I don't hear people talk about him as much as I think they should, because he had some, super original sounding riffs. I mean, it was just he just kind of sounded like Andy. Now, I think no one will disagree with me here that Ian Thornley is severely underrated. Not only is he an incredible guitarist, can play slide, can shred your face off, can play melodic with feel, all those things, he's just as good at singing. He's an amazing singer. His band is Big Wreck. If you're not familiar with them, check them out. Everything Ian Thornley does is great. Blackberry Smoke going on now. Charlie Starr. I'm really excited. They just came out with his signature, Les Paul Jr., because I think that Charlie is such a cool, just modern, rock star kind of player. He's got a lot of swagger in the way that he plays, and I love that. And sings great. I love Blackberry Smoke. My buddy Greg introduced me to them many years ago, and instant fan. They are just the coolest, and so is Charlie. Keith Scott, what an awesome guitarist. Rocks a 63 Strat, plays the coolest, tastiest stuff. Guitarist for Bryan Adams. Now, Bryan is an awesome guitarist himself, so some of these riffs could be Bryan's and not always Keith's, but Keith is just such a tasteful, great player and just never really seems to get the attention that he deserves. Mr. Michael Thompson. Now, he is a session legend, that's for sure, but if you're not real familiar with his band, the MTB, there is just a plethora of cool, tasty guitar. I mean, just look up his AllMusic page and all that kind of stuff. You'll see all the stuff that he played on, but I've always just admired Michael Thompson. I thought he had so much vibe in his playing. He really had, the atmospheric thing and just cool. Just cool sauce all day long, man. Michael Thompson. Check him out. MTB. Now, Jerry Kantro, obviously, in Alice in Chains, hugely successful band. Still, I think, underrated because, and this is just for me personally, I learned so many songs off of Facelift, off of Dirt, Jar of Fly. I mean, we had all of them. I love Alice in Chains. My mom loves Alice in Chains, so we kind of listened to them a lot together. And I always thought that Wood, what a cool riff. Jerry is an absolute riff lord, in my opinion. He's up there. Again, some people, you can disagree. I feel like he's up there with Tony Iommi, you know, those kinds of guys who just have the coolest, dark-sounding riffs. But, man, I don't know. Jerry Cantrell is, I think, one of the best to ever do it. Alright, I had to put him in here. I know he's been in some of my other lists too, but Dan Huff, man, Dan is just one of my favorite guitarists. It kind of felt like Giant never really got their moment in the 80s because they came out a little bit too late. But, I mean, look at his session career, his producing career, and if you just like straight up 80s rock guitar, listen to the first 3 Giant albums. I mean, it's all perfect, and Dan is just incredible. Oh man, another personal favorite of mine came from the 80s, but his style changed so much as he just kind of progressed as a musician. Andy Timmons is phenomenal. The absolute, like, tone master. It's just, I don't know. And if you ever see him live, man, I've seen Andy live so many times, and he is just one of the best live performing guitarists I've ever seen. Not to mention, I have his Halo pedal, I have his JHS Angry, well, it's not Angry Charlie, it's the At pedal. But I don't know, man. Huge fan. I think Andy deserves way more attention. Now, this one's a little bit tricky because obviously Lynyrd Skynyrd had a lot of guitarists in their band, but Alan Collins is always the one that I was kind of gravitating to, and I believe that Neil and Spoon is his riff, but again, some of these I could be wrong, especially when you get multiple guitarists in a band, sometimes it's hard to tell, but I always thought that was one of his riffs, and I mean, just cool. He has so many things in there that I believe are him, and hard to play. A lot of Skynyrd stuff is hard to play. I think it gets overlooked a little bit nowadays, believe it or not. I know it's hard to even say that, but because it seems simple until you go to play it and you're like, oh wow, to get the feel right on this stuff is hard. And Alan Collins had feel for days in his own unique way. So yeah, Alan Collins always going to be on one of these lists for me because I think that we should still be talking about him. He was amazing. Mr. Philip Sayce. Now, man, Sayce, I always thought he should be way, way bigger than what he is. I think he is just, I mean, plays with so much feel. There's a couple of the guys on here who just, like, aggressive feel. It's crazy. If you're not familiar with Sayce, he has so many great albums out there. Man, just any of them. Literally get any Sayce album, and it's awesome. Now, Rich Robinson is such a good guitarist. He's not the kind of guitarist who's going to sit there and just whip out this crazy solo on you. He is going to write the sickest riffs in open G and all these open tunings. He's kind of like the more modern version of Keith Richards or something like that. And he just has so many cool rhythmic things that he does. I mean, I love the Black Crowes, one of my all-time favorite bands, and I've been listening to Rich play guitar my entire life, and I think that he deserves 10 times the attention that he gets because I just think he's a rock and roll rhythm guitar genius. Going a little country on you here. Keith Urban. Now, obviously Keith is like, you know, an A-list celebrity and, you know, sold millions of albums and all that kind of stuff. But I think that his kind of like, would you call it like pop status? Or, you know, like he's mainly like viewed, I think, as a singer. But guitarists know. We all know that Keith is a terrifyingly good guitarist. Earlier in his career, he was way more like, you know, you could see how fast and shreddy he could be if he wanted to, and nowadays he's much more melodic and just kind of serves the song, but don't let him fool you. Keith is an absolute monster. Go check out the Golden Road album. Some of the best sounding acoustics, really cool solos, awesome electric stuff. I mean, Riptide. There's all kinds of. I mean, there's a lot of really great guitar on all of Keith's albums. Now, Doug Rapaport is a super important guitarist to me as a player, because I remember when I discovered Doug probably 7-8 years ago, I was just like, that's the way I want to play guitar. Like, really. You know, I've gotten to meet and know Doug a little bit, and he's an awesome person and just a terrifyingly good guitarist. We're lucky that he has a YouTube channel and he writes a lot of songs for like gear demo stuff. Dude, I watch his stuff all the time. He is one of the most inspiring guitarists for me, and I don't know. I just think that he deserves a huge spotlight on him at all times because he is that good. Ooh, the hours I spent learning Richie Cson stuff. Man, I was obsessed with Richie for years and years and years, and spent a lot of time trying to develop that, you know, kind of signature Richie legato and all that kind of stuff. And I remember I was in a band, and they're just like, dude, you have to stop listening to so much Richie Cson. And I think he's amazing. You know, has this kind of like rock blues fusion thing going on. Incredible singer. Also plays. He kind of has like the Prince thing where he'll play drums, bass, guitar, sing, harmonies, all on his own and record it all himself and make an album. So, yeah, Richie Cson. I think a lot of you guys will agree. He's up there, man. Without a doubt, one of my favorite bands that I've discovered in the past 10, 15 years, I don't even know how long I've been listening to them at this point, but Rival Sons is incredible. Scott Holiday has such a unique sound. Like, he really embraced that fuzz. I mean, he's called the Fuzz Lord. But cool riffs, 4 days, also cool solos. Maybe not the most shreddy stuff, but just really, really cool. I mean, memorable. The riffs are so catchy. I love the like obvious like Led Zeppelin influence at times. You hear their influences, and you hear that they're doing their own thing with them. So Scott Holiday is another one up there, waving the guitar flag in 2024. And I don't know. I think he's an important one for us because it seems like the kind of the rock star vibe has really like subsided a lot. And I like seeing guys like Scott up there all swagged out and everything. I don't know. He's cool, man. Check him out. Check out Rival Sons if you haven't, by any chance. One of my favorite bands in the past, 10 years. Craig Ross. Now, this is definitely a guy that not enough people talk about. He is the second guitarist with Lenny Kravitz. Now, Lenny's no slouch either. I thought about actually putting Lenny in here because a lot of times I thought it was Craig playing solos, and when I watched him live, I'm like, oh, Lenny's playing those solos. I didn't know that. But Craig is another one of those guys who just has that rock and roll swagger in his playing, and he's so good. Tasty is just the quintessential rock sideman. Craig Ross, if you're not familiar with him, check him out. Looks cool, plays cool, sounds cool. Craig Ross. He's cool. Steve Clark. Now, last time I did one of these underrated videos, it was based on 80s players, and I lumped Steve and Phil together, and a lot of you guys were upset about that. So I was like, man, Steve Clark really needs his own moment. I think that was Steve at the beginning of Gods of War. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong for that. Maybe that was Phil. I thought the second part was Phil. But either way, that's an awesome riff. But Steve Clark came up with so many cool and just kind of like unusual riffs. You know, he didn't have the crazy technique that Phil Collins had, so that's why I mean, he had great technique. I'm not saying that, but they complemented each other very, very well. Kind of schooled and then a little bit more rock and roll at times. So I don't know, Steve Clark, just the man. Ooh, Miles Kennedy, the classic triple threat, man. He can sing, he can play and write, and then he can shred when he wants to. Miles Kennedy, super, super underrated as a guitarist because, I mean, he's typically the front man, and the guitarist beside him is Mark Tremonti and Alter Bridge, who's, a legend, and then Slash, an icon. I mean, so he isn't usually, it's not his job to shine on guitar, but if you haven't checked out his solo stuff, especially the Ides of March, I think he has a new album coming out soon too, but the Ides of March, you really, really hear Miles just rip on guitar, and it is awesome. I'm like, yes, I always knew you were, like, I knew you could do it. There's an old video from back in the late 80s, maybe early 90s of Miles when he was a teenager, and he is just shredding. So I don't know. Miles is phenomenal, and I think he deserves way more attention because he's a great singer. He gets a lot of attention for that. But he's also a great guitarist. Now, Paul Kossoff is pretty much always on these underrated lists because he is so good. I've been on this huge free kick. A lot of you guys know in my videos I've been playing a lot of Paul, Kossoff riffs, Mover and Heartbreaker, which I played here, and then I mean you've got the classic ones. That there are so many cool things. Go out and buy. I'm sure there's like a greatest hits collection or whatever of free, but buy a couple free albums and listen to the whole thing, and you'll be like, man, he had some wicked solos and some wicked riffs, and you just got Paul Rodgers over there laying it down on vocals, so what more do you need? But yeah, man, Kossoff always deserves to be in here. I think that he was so talented, so tasteful with the way that he played, and man, I wish more people were talking about it. And the final one here, even though he was in such an iconic band, I feel like John Fogerty is a little bit, maybe not underrated, but maybe underappreciated, because there is so much stuff in his playing. He was really, I just kind of feel like he was ahead of his time with a lot of the stuff that he was doing. I mean, all of it, any CCR stuff is so, well, except the last album, which it had good stuff on there, but I know that was kind of like the band was falling apart at that point. But A lot of John's solo stuff has really cool guitar. You see right away, you're like, okay, he was the driving force behind the band and all that kind of stuff. But man, there is just an endless amount of stuff you can learn from learning that old CCR stuff. It's another one of those that seems simple, and you get diving in there, and you're like, all right, I see you, John Fogerty. Alrighty guys, that is it. So like I said before, let me know who you think should have been on this list, or maybe there was someone on the list that you're like, get him off that list, he's not underrated. But you know, you can make your own list too if you want to. I'm just curious to see who you guys think I forgot, or who should be added to the list. And don't forget, if you would, check out the new course, the Chord Expander. I really do appreciate that. Put a lot of work into those, and a lot of you guys who have it seem to be enjoying it. So hope you get something out of it, and I'll see you all next time, guys. End it bluesy. Voyager style. Bye, guys.